Welcome back to the 6th Gear Garage. New brake calipers and rotors look great on any car until the weather causes them to rust. Today, I'm going to paint my TSX's new calipers and rotors before installing them to keep them looking as good as new. I'm out in the driveway and I have the calipers hanging from this ladder. Hanging them to paint is the way to go. If you set them on something, it's going to be hard to reach all sides. First, I'm spraying them down with a strong degreaser to remove any oils or contaminants. I'm hosing them down to get everything off so the primer and paint will bond to the surface. Get the backs too. Then, I'll give them plenty of time to air dry. The cast surface is rough, so wiping them dry with a towel might leave lint on the surface. Here's some paint I already had in the garage. Some VHT high temperature primer meant for headers, but brakes get hot too. And some silver brake paint. Only about half of this can left, so we'll see if it's enough. Whatever brand you go with, be sure to follow the instructions of the product for best results. Before I paint these, I'm going to mask some parts off. Here you can see I put tape over the rubber slider boots and the bleeder valve. Looking on the inside, I also covered the piston and the rubber seal around it. Paint will crack and start to fall off of the rubber surfaces and make it look sloppy. So now it's time for primer. Light coats are important here. I'm not even trying to completely cover the metal with the first coat of primer. I am making sure to get primer in all of the nooks and crannies of the calipers. I like to get the hard to reach areas first because as I get those spots covered, some paint usually ends up on the easy to reach surfaces around them. Then I just add a little more on the easy surfaces last, if needed. That's how I avoid runs or drips on the main areas. Here's how they look after the first coat of primer. It's gray, so it's not a big difference from the bare metal. I can still see a little bit of metal shining through the primer. I let them dry for about 10 minutes and repeated the process for the second coat of primer. Now I'm spraying the first coat of silver brake paint. Same as before, I try and get all the tight areas first and then the easy areas. Again, I'm keeping this coat light. If I don't cover all the gray primer, that's fine. I'll do that on the next coat. What I don't want is a run or sag in the paint from applying it too heavy. I repeated the process for the second color coat, and again for the third coat. While the calipers dry, I'm going to get the rotors ready for paint. There are areas I want to paint and some areas that I don't want to paint, like the braking surface here where the pads will touch. The edge of the rotor hat will be visible through the wheel, so I want to paint this area. I'm not too worried about the back since that won't be visible when the rotors are installed. I have a couple pieces of mat board here and I'm going to make a template instead of taping off the braking area on both rotors. I'll start with the outer circle. I taped these together since I used two pieces. Now, the braking surface of this rotor is about 1 3/4, 5/8, so 1 11/16 inches. Never mind these crosshair lines going through the circle. I tried something and it didn't work. I'm going to make a mark 1 11/16 inches from the outside, and another, and another, and one more. That's good. Now I'm centering the hat of the rotor in those 4 marks. The goal is to have it evenly centered all the way around. Now with the marker, I'm drawing a circle around the edge of the hat. And there we go. It's not rocket science quality, but it's good enough for masking paint. Now I'm cutting it out with an X-Acto knife. Punch the center out. And let's do a test fit. Oh, that's good. Now, I need to cut the outside out. I'm using scissors for this because it's way easier than the knife. Back outside, and the first thing to do is clean these rotors. I am hosing them down with the prep spray degreaser just like I did with the calipers. If you have brake cleaner, that works as well. I don't want to paint these standing up because the paint will want to run down. Flat is the way to go. but I am going to put something under the calipers to get them up off the ground. That'll make them easier to paint, so I won't have to hold the can horizontal. Here's my template, and time for some primer. The side of the hats are visible through the wheels, so I'm painting those to keep them looking new. Might as well get the surface as well. Now I'm doing the very outer edge. This area always rusts and looks bad, so I'm hoping some primer and paint will keep them from rusting. And I did the same on the other rotor. Then I did a second coat of primer on both rotors. Now I'm spraying the first coat of silver, being sure to get the visible areas of the rotor, and that very outer edge as well. If I was doing this again, I'd put these up a lot higher off the ground, like on a box or something. On to the second rotor. The template was the way to go instead of trying to mask off around the outer edge. My finger's getting tired. This can is about done. There's enough left for a second coat, but I'm focusing on the edges and not wasting any on the mounting flange. And that's all, folks. Time to let them dry. That's it for today. Next week, I'll be removing the old rusty rotors and calipers for my TSX and replacing them with the fresh pads and the new calipers and rotors that I just painted. We'll look at these again after a while to see how they're holding up. Thanks for watching, and consider subscribing for more how-to videos and project vehicle updates here at the 6th Gear Garage.